Hello, I am Zerbraxi. Zelda month is coming to a close, and while that saddens me, and also frees up my schedule, it's been really awesome to look back at the franchise in such an appreciating light. So to help round off the back end of the month, we're going to take a look at 5 underrated moments that I feel are in the franchise. So without further ado, let's go. The Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask has to have one of the most confusing fan bases ever. They're like Ocarina fans, but a bit more brutal. But when they say Majora's Mask is a dark and mature game, it's cause they're right. Now, what in particular stands out to make on this list? Is it the truth about the Deku Mask? Nope. The dark realities of the Keaton Mask? Nah. The meaning of the Stone Tower Temple? The fact that Link dies if he fails? Sure. It's true. If you fail to stop the moon in the 3 days, you don't simply game over. It's the end. For good. But to be fair, this isn't the first Zelda to do this. In Zelda 2 The Adventure of Link, something similar happens upon death. While not as flashy or epic, it's still just as eerie. Getting a game over results in a silhouette of Link's limp corpse, and cuts to a shot of Ganon laughing with the message, Return of Ganon. So congrats! Failure doesn't just mean everyone's dead, it means the whole world is now ruled by an immortal evil monster who will surely torture its citizens and cause an eternity of pain and misery. At least Majora's Mask was merciful. If you're anything like me, then your opinions of the original Zelda can be summed up like, It's far from bad, but I can't really call it a favorite by any stretch. It's one of those games, though, that anybody interested in game design should really play. It'll teach you a lot. Some people may not see this next part as underrated, but I do. Yeah, it's discussed often by people when this game comes up, but I'm still not sure it quite gets the credit it deserves. I'm of course talking about the fact that the game literally drops you into the world, and that's it. Yeah, it completely leaves you to your own devices, never once telling you anything besides the fact that it's dangerous to go alone. Thanks, but really think about it. How well does a game have to be designed to never once tell you anything, yet become one of the most iconic pieces in the medium? How can a game tell you nothing at all through dialogue or text, but teach you every single rule by just playing? Playing a game that has rules, but you don't know them yet. Yet you learn, and you learn in a way that's never frustrating. You never feel like the game's holding back information when it actually is. Could you imagine a board game like this? Or a card game? It'd be awful. Hence, why The Legend of Zelda is one of the most important video games out there. So you're on your way to finish Wind Waker. You fight Puppet Ganon, who totally cheats by the way. You finally arrive at Ganondorf, and this time, Zelda is even there to help you out. Alright, this one's definitely a bit of a stretch, but I've always found it pretty cool. I think the best thing about the Ganondorf battle in Wind Waker, besides the fact that you stab him in the face, is actually just the formation used to battle him. So you need Zelda to shoot the light arrows at you so you can reflect them into Ganondorf. By doing this, it forces all 3 Triforce holders to actually form a giant triangle, with Ganondorf on top and Zelda and Link on the bottom. Now this perfectly represents the Triforce holders. Yeah, I know it's not that big of a deal, but it honestly always makes me wonder if there was intentional symbolism here, or it was just me completely overanalyzing something. Yeah, probably the second one. Next up, we got a little something from Skyward Sword. Now, regardless of anything people say about Skyward Sword, I have always found its plot easily its strongest point. The game has a few key moments that were just actually jaw-dropping to me. The one that a lot of people refer to, though, is when you find out Fi's true place in the franchise. Oh, it's pronounced Fi? Well, that was good to find out. But there was actually another moment in the game that completely blew my mind. When you finally are able to go through the Gate of Time and reunite with Zelda, not everything goes as you're hoping. The memories of Hylia return to her, and as a failsafe to prevent Demise from awakening, she must cast herself into sleep that will last thousands of years, forcing the seal on Demise to bind him. What? After 20 years we finally have some sort of connection to the Zelda and Adventure of Link? Oh, sorry. For those of you who are a little bit lost, it is said in Zelda 2 that the Zelda you see in the beginning of the game is actually a different Zelda entirely than the one in the original game. But it's the same Link, only older. Since 1988, no one knew how this could be possible. The only info we are given about this new Zelda is that she has been asleep for millennia. So it's quite possible that the Zelda in Adventure of Link is the same Zelda in Skyward Sword. Perhaps she remains asleep, still trying to prevent demise from roaming the world, allowing Link only to have to deal with Ganon. So for anyone who doesn't know, The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time is my personal favorite game. You might say I'm a little obsessed. This final entry on the list definitely has a strong bias, and I want to make sure that's clear from the get-go. But there is something specific about Ocarina that I think gets incredibly overlooked. Of course, that would be its plot. Now, I don't mean its story overall. The game is very much praised for bringing a lot of the series' lore into fruition, but the truth behind the game's events can be incredibly dark and rather saddening. I would argue some of it's on par with the strongest parts of even Majora's Mask or Link's Awakening. So let's break this down. The game opens with Link having nightmares about a man actually killing him. Within a few hours, this fear becomes reality. You come standing face to face with Ganondorf as he almost ends your life. Leaving behind Zelda and Impa to fight on their own, you skip ahead 7 years of your life, leaving behind all that you knew to try and help Hyrule. But once you arrive in the future, you do remember, you do have someone, a friend who would always be there for you. But as Sheik says, the flow of time is always cruel. Your only friend has since passed away, and become a sage of the Sacred Realm. Well, maybe Darunia, your Goron brother, can help you out. Sadly though, you watch him walk into his own death in order to protect his tribe in the Fire Temple. His own son that you just met will never see his father again, and you failed him in your vow to bring Darunia back. Even Ruto waited for you for 7 whole years. Someone who loved you, kept waiting, and was finally reunited with you, only to as well be taken from the world and forced upon the position of a sage. And hearing the words, "Young love turns to deep affection," only makes it harder. Impa is killed protecting the royal family, removing the Sheikah race from existence. Nabooru, really the only new character you meet, dies. Cutting to the end, while defeating Ganon with Zelda is rewarding and triumphant, you don't quite get the happy ending you wanted. When peace returns to Hyrule, it will be time for us to say goodbye. And while returning home gives you some hope and this chapter closes, your last friend, the companion who has been with you from the start, Navi, leaves you flying into the sunlight. Link doesn't even return to the Kokiri Forest, but instead makes his way to Zelda, and as the game ends, it freezes on our 2 heroes who literally have only each other left in the wake of many sacrifices. The strength of all this is it's something that you feel, not something that you see. You see, a lot of times, dark stories like to point out these things, so you know how to react. But in this case, it's what's felt in the heart. It's what stays in the back of your mind that's not really given clear light, that really hits you. It lingers, and the loss is just so painful because of it. Ocarina of Time can really teach us something. It can show us that time passes, people move, but like a river's flow, it never ends. I'll see you next time. Hey, I really want to say thanks. Doing a month of Zelda videos was a much larger endeavor than I could have possibly imagined, but thanks to you all, I learned a lot from it. As much as I enjoyed doing it, it does feel nice to get back to the regular routine though. Don't forget to like the video if you thought my voice sounded lovely, and if you want to see more stuff, the best way to do so is to subscribe. It's free, it's painless, and it makes me sleep less. So just go for it. As mentioned at the end of the Mirror's Edge episode, the next Divine Design will be on Halo Reach. So that'll be the next thing I'm working on. As for what follows, well, who knows? Maybe you'll get to decide.